For the next hour, the green and gold are in charge. Welcome to In the Huddle on the Woodward Radio Network. In the Huddle is brought to you by Mole Lake Casino Lodge and Conference Center. Now, here's Bill Scott and Green Bay defensive lineman BJ Raji.
And good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tanner's and Kimberly. Our program brought to you by Mole Lake Casino after the Packers knock off the Chargers 45-38 yesterday. BJ Raji back in the house after a Monday of trick-or-treating. How'd that go for you?
I don't really do too much trick-or-treating, but it was good to have a week off. I was just getting back from being out of town, so it was good to have a night to just relax.
You and I talked last week. You got caught in the snowstorm out east.
I did, yeah. It wasn't fun at all. But it was one of those things where, this time of the year on the East Coast and certain parts of the country, it's to be expected.
Yeah, all right. So a big win yesterday to send the Packers to an 8-0 record. And we'll talk about various segments of that game, but just your thoughts on being at the halfway point and being perfect so far.
It's the NFL. It's a tough league. We all know that. For us to be 8-0 sitting here, the only team undefeated, I think there's something to be said for that. Obviously, we still have work to do, talking particularly from the defensive side, but it's good to be 8-0. When you're winning, life is good.
The unbeaten talk is only going to grow and intensify. All of the great things you guys are doing is only going to intensify. How do you, and for some players, it comes easier than others, but how do you make sure that everybody just stays grounded and has the task at hand on their mind first and foremost?
Yeah, I think that's a little overrated as far as that whole talk is. I know in college it's a little different, because the competition can dwindle from week to week. But I think when you're playing in this league, obviously, a team might have a poor record, but sometimes record isn't an indicator of how good a team is. And I think that every team has talent. Every team, spends money to try to make their team the best team that they could possibly be.
This is the third time that the Packers have won a toss and deferred to the second half, and then third time this season that the opponent has gone down. Carolina did it a couple of weeks later. I can't remember the other team, and then yesterday
Vikings.
The Vikings did it, and then yesterday San Diego, where the offense marches down, scores a touchdown on the opening drive. Obviously, Mike McCarthy has his reasons for doing it. I'm assuming he just wants to see the defense jump out and get off to a great start. And that's got to be frustrating to not allow or not see that happen.
Definitely. Even, I know Coach is not happy with that, and neither are we. We're the ones that's out there performing. And I think that, like I said, we have work to do. We're not perfect, but I think that, we show signs of being resilient and just being able to come up with plays. We had 2 pick sixes for touchdowns, so we did some good things. But I think overall, anytime the ball's going over your head consistently, you have problems and you have to get it fixed.
Yeah, usually, in fact, it probably works out like that 98% of the time. The team that wins the turnover battle is going to win the football game. And it certainly worked out that yesterday. 3 interceptions of Phillip Rivers, 2 of them taken back for touchdowns. There's some issues on the defensive side of the ball in terms of giving up yardage and so on and so forth, but there's no denying that this is a big play defense. 8 interceptions in the last 3 games, 2 of them turned for touchdowns yesterday. You guys are getting it done in the big play department.
Right. That's one thing we like to keep a hold on to and continue to do better in that area and to continue to produce in that area. But like I said, anytime the ball's going over your head, you have work to do. I don't know whether it's communication or lack of focus or whatever. It starts as a group, and up front, we got to do a better job of kind of getting those guys out of situations, and it's their job to cover, just like it's our job to rush the passer.
Dom Capers, we talked to him earlier today, and he talked about once a player makes the interception and the return part of it starts, trying to take the ball back for a score. And he said it is a bit of a focus. It's talked about. It's worked on a little bit in terms of, the defensive players now becoming offensive players and looking to block. And he said that on Pepper's return for a touchdown, there were 5 key blocks as he looked at the film that were thrown by a defensive player to spring Pepra free and get him into the end zone for a touchdown.
Right. Anytime I think for most players, like Dom said, we do work on it quite a bit. But I think for most players, it's just natural. Your guy, your team has the ball, and we want to try to score. It doesn't always happen, but I know the best chance we have to score is for everyone to block. If no one blocks, then we have no chance. So I think that's kind of more of a natural, instinctive move. Just everyone turns and looks for a block.
Did you get one yourself?
I did actually. I blocked one offensive lineman. I was trying to help Pep spring him getting back, and did a good job of finding the end zone.
All right, 145.8. That's quarterback rating for Aaron Rodgers yesterday. 4 touchdown passes. And I think it's interesting because one newspaper writer writing for a Green Bay newspaper wrote that Rodgers' surgical operations have become so routine that they're in danger of losing their luster.
Okay, explain what that means.
Well, I guess what he means, and I think people are starting to talk about it, is that, for example, I was listening to a national radio network, okay. and they said, what would be your key quarterback performance of the weekend? And the guy goes, Joe Flacco. All right, so Joe Flacco, he did bring Baltimore from behind against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but in no way was Joe Flacco's performance even come close to mirroring the performance of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdown passes, 145.8 quarterback rating. I mean, this guy, it's becoming so expected and so routine based on the way he's playing. And in my opinion, this guy should be the player of the week, the player of the month, the player of the year, every week, every month, every year, the way he's playing right now. And there shouldn't be any other consideration.
I think so. Aaron, I'm impressed with the fact that he, like the biggest thing with quarterbacks, your talent level, obviously quarterbacks have different talent levels. Some have the arm, some have the accuracy, but ultimately quarterback comes down to decision making, and you see a lot of quarterbacks around this league that have all the ability, but in critical situations, they constantly make the mistake. So for me to constantly see Aaron week in and week out most of the time make the right decision or where to go with the football, I think should be unanimous. Right now he's definitely the most valuable player, and hopefully he continues it.
Yeah, his accuracy is unbelievable, no question about that. We'll talk more about that as the show goes on. We'll also welcome our guest here at Tanner's in Kimberly, our guest of the program tonight that's coming up in the next 3 minutes. You're listening to In the Huddle from Tanner's on the Woodward Radio Network.
Now back to In the Huddle with Bill Scott and Green Bay defensive lineman BJ Raji.
And we are back at Tanner's in Kimberly. Good to have you along here. Our transportation for our players is brought to you by L&S Classic Limousine, personal professional service for all occasions. Call 800-830-5933 for your reservation. Lenny's here again. Lenny, where are you at? Lenny, where are you at? Lenny, there you go. Wave your hand, Lenny. Lenny from L&S Classic Limousine here again, bringing our players to and from. Our guest tonight is in his 2nd NFL season out of Boston College. He is linebacker Robert Francois. Robert, thanks for coming out. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. You entered the league in 2009 as a non-drafted rookie with Minnesota. Also spent some of the 2009 preseason in Detroit and eventually wound up in Green Bay and reunited with your former college teammate BJ Raji.
Yeah, it's been a crazy road, but I think I found a place where I need to be.
When the Packers brought Robert in, what were you? It's kind of nice to have a friendly face, isn't it?
Definitely. Like you said, we went to college together. I know what type of player he is. I know what type of competitor and how hard he works. And he's the type of player, type of person who won't squander this opportunity. I've only been in the league 3 years, but you see guys that come in, have a lot of ability, but they don't take it as serious. And Rob isn't one of those guys, so I knew he would try to make the most of his opportunity.
Kind of in waiting mode as you're kind of just waiting for your opportunity. When you got your chance last year in the NFC Championship game, you came up big with a 3-tackle performance, filling in for Eric Walden, who went down in that game, and you were able to step in and fill in his shoes. And right now it's kind of one of those deals where you got to be patient, and that's probably not the easiest thing in the world to do, to sit and wait for your opportunity.
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating at the same time, and it can be rewarding, like last year.
Talk about that what that meant to you to be able to play and make such a contribution in that game?
It's huge, Got to show fans and the coaches that I can, go out there and play and make plays, not just be out there and be a average guy.
When you were in training camp with the Packers, you were released in the final cutdown, immediately signed to the practice squad the next day. Is that something that they just say, hey, we want you back, and you got to wait to clear waivers, and if you do, we want you back here?
I mean, it's just part of the business, being a free agent. You got to work your way up, and sometimes it's harder than others.
You were back and forth, I think, 3 times in the practice squad, twice in the active roster last season?
Yeah.
You didn't almost needed a turnstile. You didn't know if you're coming or going, did you?
Yeah, it was I don't know, it's a very unique story. Just going up and down so much. Not many players go through it. But, just my type of mentality and hard work, I knew the best would come. So I just kept on working at it, and it finally worked out.
All right, inquiry minds want to know, I'm sure everybody here is thinking this, or at least some people are thinking this. I'm not going to ask you how much you make, but what was the difference? What was the difference between a regular game check on the active roster compared to a regular weekly check on the practice squad?
It was a good enough difference to want to be active and not on the practice squad. Yeah. I'd say so.
pretty substantial.
Yeah.
Would have to be, I would assume.
All right, you signed for the rest of the season then after Brandon Chiller was placed on IR, so that had to be comforting because you kind of knew at that point that that you were going to be around for the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. My role became bigger on special teams, and the coaches became very confident in me, and I proved that my worth out there.
Grew up in Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then moved to New England?
Yeah, I left after my sophomore year in Texas and went to prep school up in New England. It's a better opportunity for me up there. Had family up there and wanted to get a good education and be able to go to a good school.
Okay, and obviously Boston College, you picked a good school, right, BJ?
Go Eagles. Go Eagles.
You ran, besides football, I think you played a little basketball, but you ran some track in high school.
Yeah,
and you were a 100-meter champion.
Yeah, 100, 200, 4x1, and 4x4. Yeah,
how big were you then?
About 215.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a little, what is that, about 35, no, about 25 pounds lighter, yeah.
100 meters, so what was your time?
My fastest time in 100 was 10.8.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's moving.
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
What's your fastest time in the... have you ever ran 100?
I don't think they recorded it, actually.
Yeah. You just chasing your buddies across the yard?
No, I'm joking. I never ran 100 meters.
Never ran 100 meters.
I thought you were kidding. You were actually.
No, I'm just because you guys are timed in 40s.
Right.
And I'm just curious if you've ever had to run 100.
100 yards, yes. It's like for football conditioning, but nothing time. It's just more of conditioning. Nothing like competing for an event.
What was the toughest when you're talking about conditioning? What was the toughest conditioning drill?
Oh man.
We were talking about that yesterday, actually.
Man, toughest on the body, I would have to go with. We had these things called the skill players ran 80 yards. Was it, Rob, 80 yards?
Yeah, 80.
Linebackers, tight ends, I think, ran 75 yarders, and offensive defensive linemen ran 70s. And then we had some days we would have 25. You say, Rob, 25, 30 sometimes?
Yeah, 25 to 30.
And it's coming off of say we'll have, this is off season now, so you'll work Monday, Tuesday, have off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then you'll have the whole weekend off. Then we'll be coming back on Monday and you start with that. So it was kind of challenging, just coming off a weekend.
And then you'd run one and just wait for the other two groups to finish and then you go again?
No. What happened was everyone would start out the goal line, and the cones obviously would differentiate your distance. And we all, what was it, 10 seconds?
Yeah, 10 to 12 seconds.
Yes, we had a certain amount of time to get to the other side. And it will be a coach standing over there, to everybody to make their times. So obviously he had to pace himself faster than me because he had to go 5 yards extra, and skill players had to go 10 yards extra. So we obviously aren't running at the same pace. But over the course of 25, 30 reps, it kind of gets you because you sometimes we only have like 20, 25 seconds rest in between. So it's like kind of you run down to the other side, then you have 20, 25 seconds off depending on what coach is trying to get done that day, and then you have to run back in the same time and just do that like 25, 30 times.
Needless to say, it's a good way to get in shape, but you probably want to be in shape before you do.
Right,
those,
right.
Yeah. You know?
Like, and we had like preliminary, workouts where, like, college has so many rules, like they couldn't make it mandatory, but coach would always stress, like, if you don't come to these workouts, then you're probably not gonna have a good showing the first day we start running. So I guess guys use their heads, and majority of the guys came to them because they wanted to be in shape for them, like you said.
How different is when you get to the NFL then?
It's a little different, I say, because college is all about like your younger men. You're trying to shape and like mentalities, and you want everyone like to finish. Like a lot of those drills, the main focus was finish. Just I think NFL is kind of you wouldn't have gotten to this point if you didn't know what it took, like as far as working out and staying in shape. I think for the most job, it's just it's more about individual. A lot of times I'm working out with myself. I have a trainer, but it's not as much as a group as it was in college.
Yeah, it almost seems like in the NFL, I mean, you watch practice during the week or you watch training camp practice, there's not, you don't get on the line and run sprints.
Right.
I mean, you're already at that peak shape, and just the practice itself is hard enough that as you go through it, that you have to be in a certain level of fitness, otherwise you're not going to make it through. You're not going to do well.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're in shape or not. So most guys, if they're not in shape, they'll start running sprints after practice. But at this level, like BJ said, you already have the mentality and work ethic. So in college, you need to build that in the young guys and, instill it in them so it's everyday nature for them.
Now, when you ran track, is it because you really loved track, or you thought that was a great way to be in shape for the things like football?
It was both, off-season workouts, you can get faster. I also like running. I mean, I ran all since I was younger, like cross-country and all that stuff, so I was always into it.
Right. You and I love running too, don't we?
I love to say I did, but never really did.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back, talk more about yesterday's win over the Chargers, 45-38. The Green Bay Packers win it to improve to 8-0. BJ Raji and Robert Francois back with more in the Huddle after this on the Woodward Radio Network.
Now back to In the Huddle with Bill Scott and Green Bay defensive lineman BJ Raji.
And we are back with BJ and Robert Francois, our guest on the program tonight. It's brought to you by Mole Lake Casino Lodge and Conference Center. Enjoy the excitement of Vegas close to home at Mole Lake Casino Lodge and Conference Center in beautiful Crandon, Wisconsin. Packers knock off the Chargers 45-38. Some news out of 1265 today. Mike Neal is expected to return to the practice field on Thursday. Not sure how long it'll take him to work back into game action, but certainly an encouraging sign for the defense.
Definitely. Particularly from my standpoint, a guy's playing a lot of snaps and a lot of reps, Not saying that, like, I feel that Mike's, his versatility as a defensive lineman, he can play the 3-4 front primarily well with his strength and his quickness. And he can also rush the passer, which helps us obviously on nickel situations. I think it's just a great asset to have, and I think hopefully that he can make a speedy recovery and just be back to the player that he was last year.
Frank Zombo, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all right now, right? I mean, he's missed time 5 weeks initially with a broken scapula. Then he missed a week plus the bye week with a hyperextended knee, and then yesterday had to come out with a hamstring injury during the game. And the word from the Packers training staff and Coach Mike McCarthy today is that it's not a serious hamstring, but it's one that'll likely keep him out of the Vikings game.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, we know how hard Frank works. He's a very tough kid, He does what you ask him to do as far as, from a schematic standpoint. And I think that hopefully he can get ready as soon as he can. He's not one of those players where you question his toughness. It's like you said, he's been through a number of injuries. So I think that as soon as he's able, he'll play.
Looking at your bio, Rob, and your favorite players, quite a contrast, favorite athletes, Jerry Rice and Bill Romanowski. How'd you come up with that duo?
Yeah. I was when I was younger, I was a lot smaller and skinnier and played receiver actually. And Jerry Rice was this player that I looked up to and always liked. You know, felt he was the best player in the NFL. I mean, he arguably is the best player in the NFL.
Yeah, maybe you know, a non-quarterback may be the greatest position player of all time.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
but and then once I got into more of the defensive minded set and moving up into high school and stuff, I like watching Bill Romanowski, and obviously he's also a BC guy and you know, hard worker. I just kind of molded myself in the same type of attitude as he did, and I just looked up to him. I mean, most people think he's dirty and nasty player, but you kind of got to be like that, you know, playing linebacker. So it's part of the game.
And is he?
Some of his actions on the field were questionable.
Over the top,
but I mean,
I respect.
He's not the only guy that's done some questionable things on the field.
Yeah, all right. I'll give you that one, no question. Hey, is with the yards that the defense has given up this season, is there you know, Charles Woodson yesterday after the game was very frustrated, and to the point where you know, a team that's 8-0, you almost wonder how a guy can be that frustrated, because he just didn't look like he was in a celebration mood. I mean, he was, you know, he's happy for the win, happy for the 8-0 record, but he's upset the way the defense is playing right now. Is there a level of frustration on your side of the ball?
I think there is, because you get frustrated not to, you know, quit. You get frustrated to try to improve, but like frustration is probably like the first stage, you know, because you know you go through like the whole game plan the whole week. You kind of feel everybody's on the same page, but then at times you seem like no one or some people don't know exactly what they're doing. So it can be frustrating, especially for the defensive leader, you know, of the team. I'm sure he's taking a lot of responsibility because that's the type of man he is. And he's used to having a high standard. You know, this is Dom's third season, and we've been pretty good on the defensive side of the ball since Dom's been here. This year is kind of an anomaly, so I think that's where the frustration comes from.
Would it be unlike teams around the league, offenses, coordinators, when you're the best in the business, people are shooting at you. They're taking shots. They're trying to game plan, not only during the week, but during the off season. They see Green Bay on the schedule. You're the best in the business, so they're going to do whatever they can to take your best 2 or 3 features away. And Clay Matthews has been one of those guys. You get double teamed nonstop. Ryan Pickett gets double teamed a lot. And do you think there's a lot of that goes on, that teams are just saying, you know what, we're not going to let Clay Matthews beat us. We're going to see if the rest of the defense can beat us?
Well, it depends how you look at it. Like if you talk to Clay, I mean, I'm sure Clay, the type of person he is, he's going to tell you that it's still his job to get to the quarterback, no matter how many guys you put on him. You know, like myself, there's no excuse. You know, I mean, I'm not the only guy getting blocked out there, double team. So I mean, I have to do a better job. But ultimately, you know, defense is a team game, and you'll be surprised when you see big plays busted, like the littlest, smallest detail that wasn't, you know, like taken care of, and that can turn into something big. And I think we actually haven't watched the film yet, so I'm talking just based off what I've seen on the field, because I haven't watched the film yet. But I'm sure that's what occurred yesterday, and it's been happening for a while, and it's kind of time for a change.
What sets? I mean, I know you haven't seen other quarterbacks around the league. You're not in the locker room, but what do you think sets Aaron Rodgers apart, besides the obvious talent, from other quarterbacks?
Like I said earlier, his decision making. He's the type of quarterback. He'll get pounded 10 times in a game before he'll just throw the ball up in the air for an interception. And I think that when your quarterback has that mentality, because I mean, obviously the quarterback is the most important part of a team, you know. And when your quarterback has the mindset, well, I'm not going to turn the ball over under any circumstances, you have a good chance of winning. And you throw in his ability and just his knowledge of the game and his awareness. I mean, you have an Aaron Rodgers player.
Yeah, that's a great point. He 24 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions, which is just incredible in its own right. But he admitted yesterday after the game that he took some sacks because there wasn't an opportunity without a penalty or trying to throw the football away. He just couldn't do it at the time, so he took the sack and rather than throw the ball up. And quite frankly, the guy on the other side, Phillip Rivers, he threw he had 2 downs to live with and enough time on the clock driving against the Packers on the final drive, and he chose to not take the sack, to not throw the ball away, do whatever. He threw it up for grabs, and there was the interception.
Exactly, and Phillips is a great player. We all know that, but that's kind of the story. It's the old cliche: you are what your film says you are. And coming into the game, we knew that Phillips had all the tools that can beat you, but he has struggled with turnovers, and yesterday was indicative of that. Aaron is coming in; he's throwing turnovers very seldom, and yesterday was indicative of that as well.
Robert, the Packers had an onside kick recovered against them, and that's the first time that I recall the Packers, having that happen in at least the last couple of years. That doesn't happen to them very often. In fact, this year you guys have been very good at recovering onside kicks. You've gotten a couple on your own, but when you look at that, is that one you just? And I know you haven't watched the film yet and gone through special teams meetings, but is that one you just kind of chalk up to the Chargers and say, what, they got us that time?
It's always a 50-50 chance on them anyways, but it's going to happen, You can't control every kick and every onside. It's just part of the game.
Yeah. Mike Tolbert, what'd you think of him?
Man, this dude was he wasn't like a typical NFL running back. He was just more like
a bowling ball.
He was.
You're the second person I've heard say that.
Had natural leverage, but he was a strong-willed guy, because you see a lot of backs. Now I don't want to start throwing shots at people, but you see a lot of big backs in this league that don't run with the same mentality that this dude runs with. He's pretty determined not to let one tackle take him down, and yesterday he made some great plays. And sometimes you gotta tip your hat when someone's having a good day.
He seems to be a guy that he's very aware of when guys are around his knees or his ankles or whatever. He finds a way to cushion that shot so that he doesn't go down right away.
Right. Like I said earlier, you are what you show in film, and you watch the Chargers film, and when this guy has the ball in his hands, he's tough to bring down. And yesterday he was very tough to bring down, and I think he's a good player. And then eventually I think he'll start getting some recognition.
All right, the Packers had 3 offensive series in the first half and 8 for the game. It doesn't happen very often.
No, but it's just amazing how much production that those guys were able to come up with on just, like you said, 8 possessions. So it's very great, and I'm happy to be a part of the team.
All right, we'll be back. Our email segment sponsored by Granite Peak Ski Area. That's coming up next. Back with more from Tanners and Kimberly in the Huddle after this on the Woodward Radio Network.
To In the Huddle with Bill Scott and Green Bay defensive lineman BJ Raji.
And we are back at Tanners and Kimberly. Good to have you along. BJ Raji, Robert Francois, the Green Bay Packers along with us. Our guest on the program tonight. We'd like to welcome Packers fans listening in Rice Lake tonight on WJCM AM, and Prairie du Chien on WQPC, and Marinette and WMAM, KFIZ in Fond du Lac, WAUH in Watoma, and WDUX-FM in Waupaca. Granite Peak Ski Area in Wausau is the tallest and largest ski area in Wisconsin, over 700 vertical feet and 74 runs. This year offers an expanded beginner area and a new fleet of rental equipment and 10 new snow guns for the best snowmaking in the state. For more information and discounted season passes and lift tickets, go to skigranitepeak.com. Our email segments, let's head out to Justin Hull for the questions tonight.
All right, as always, inthehuddleshow.com. That's the website. Each and every week you can go there and submit your questions. We'll start with this one from Jim and Kimberly for each of you. Who would you name as the team's defensive MVP thus far?
That's a good one.
You can vote for yourself.
I'm not that type of guy, though. I think that I'll probably pick Tremont or Charles Woodson, one of the cover guys, because that's always. I think my personal belief is outside of quarterback. I feel like cornerbacks have the toughest job as far as being on an island with probably one of the team's best athletes, and having to mirror those guys and having to sometimes run with them. So I think probably either Tremont or Wood or Woodson. I would give it to.
Maybe Morgan. Or Tremont. I don't know. I think it has to go with a DB though, because
I'm going to go
all
with
these picks we get.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Des Bishop.
Yeah, Desmond too. He's a good candidate. It's all.
Yeah, it's
all
how you
around,
look at
really.
it. I think Desmond's obviously had a great season. You know, he's always around the ball. You know, his hustle. He's very versatile. But yeah, it's my opinion. I think that the cover guys, you know, those guys, and knowing the type of defense we play, we're primarily a cover one defense. Man, those guys are just they're out on the line. They're out there, so they do a good job.
Do you guys do team awards at the end of the year or anything like that? You hear about that in baseball and other sports.
No, we go weekly awards. I think the coaches vote on, you know, each aspect of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, and every week, you know, as the coaches vote, you know, we have an awards, and those guys who win the awards, their pictures are hang up on the wall for that week. So it's a good motivational tool for guys to get up on that wall that play well.
Kind of like when you go in the gas station and the employee of the week is up there, kind of like that?
Yes, but maybe a little more magnified.
More
yeah, a little meaningful.
All right.
All right, we'll get to our next question here from Christy in Reedsburg. Do you like games that are close, or do you like playing in games that are blowouts?
Me, personally, if we have the lead, yes, blowing out. I would love every game, let's win by 5 touchdowns. Why not? I mean, if you're a fan, maybe you disagree with me, but I would love to have a huge lead every game.
I want to throw this at you a little bit differently, Robert. A loss is a loss, but is it easier to swallow a loss, you know, say if you lose by 2 or 3 touchdowns versus maybe losing on a last-second touchdown or a last-second field goal, a closer loss?
Easy? Nah. I think. I mean, if you're getting beat by 2 or more touchdowns, you know, you definitely had a bad game. If you're getting beat by a Hail Mary or something, you could have had a good game and you just got lucky at the end, you know. So it's kind of hard to say in that.
All right, well, we'll get to our next question here. This one's from Christy in Kaukauna. After going through the lockout the way you guys did, what are your thoughts on what's going on in the NBA?
Oh man, I don't know exactly some of the issues that are going on with this. I can't really speak on that, but I know those guys are probably itching to get back to play just like we are. And I think that those guys, they'll just start playing here pretty soon. I'm not sure the exact date, but those guys are obviously going longer than us, so I'm sure they want to play. But obviously you have to take care of that part of it.
Was there ever a point during the lockout where you were thinking, are we going to return? I mean, was it ever bleak? Was it always optimistic? I mean, just kind of take us through the process of, you know, what was going through your guys' head this summer.
Well, what you think?
I always felt we were coming back and just, you know, didn't know when, but you know the season was going to start on time, but you didn't know about preseason. So I kind of felt, you know, we might miss a few preseason games, but it would be signed by then.
Yeah, I think we were all on the same page as far as players, just, you know, just emailing each other, talking. I think it's probably more of how much of preseason or camp we would miss as opposed to not playing at all.
All right, we'll get to our next question here. Tom in Wapaka. BJ, you talk each week about how much you like college football. Did you get a chance to watch LSU in Alabama on Saturday night? And what are your thoughts of Alabama being number 3 in the great BCS? I made sure I put the C in there. So.
Okay. I watched the game like probably everybody that loves college football did. I was impressed. I think that you know, when you look at those two teams' track record up to this point, and you see what they were doing to other teams, other quality opponents, and the fact that they weren't able to do that to each other, I think that said something as far as the level of competition, the level of players, how better those players were as opposed to watching a normal game. I just think that, you know, when you lose after that game, I didn't really know. I can't really sit here and say that LSU was definitely the better team. You know, I just think that Alabama missed on some opportunities to win. Ultimately, LSU won. They deserve the credit, but I don't think you can say LSU is a better team than Alabama. And I would definitely put them over like Boise State or something. Like, they don't play anybody.
All right, thanks for the questions and the emails. We'll come back and we'll hand out our winner of a ski package for 2 to Granite Peak Ski Area in Wausau. Back with more from Tanner's Sports Bar and Grill in Kimberly after this on the Woodward Radio Network.
Now back to In the Huddle with Bill Scott and Green Bay defensive lineman BJ Raji.
And we are back here. Tanner's Bar and Grill in Kimberly with BJ Raji and Robert Francois. Francois? Yes, looks like Francois or Coy. So what, is that as French as they get, or?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Do you speak French?
Nah. I just carry the name.
All right. Let's head back out to Justin Hull to give us our email winner.
Yeah, we'll go with Tom in Wapaka. Had the question with the BCS. We haven't had a winner yet from Wapaka, too, so we'll give that Granite Peak ski package to Tom for that question.
Outstanding. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Justin. All right, the Packers with so many fans at yesterday's game. I'm sure a lot of them are from right here in Wisconsin. Plus, there's Packers fans everywhere, so California has a number of them. But they were so loud that I'm told that San Diego had to go to a silent count yesterday in their own stadium.
Yeah, if that's the case, then that's awesome. I think green and yellow definitely showed up in great abundance yesterday. But I think that, everywhere we go, even preseason, I think that our fans do a great job of traveling. I'm glad that we're able to win games, make the trip worthwhile, And I think it's a great relationship. They enter the game from the moment we went out on the field, pregame, until the final, the final whistle. I think that's great, and I think hopefully that continues.
All right, you've probably seen the highlights, the lowlights, if you want to call it, the San Diego Chargers offensive guard who staggered and fell a couple of times, staggered back to his feet, fell again. He had a seizure on the plane ride home, and yet he stayed in the football game and played with a concussion. Right? When he fell twice, he fell right in front of an official. And that official did nothing to stop the game and to say, let's get the medical people in here and let's get this guy looked at. Right or wrong?
I think it's easy to say you blame the official, but I'm sure, it's probably protocol that the official had to ask this guy, are you okay?
Yeah.
And the guy probably replied, I'm fine. And if you're an official, you really can't look too much into it. You're trying to officiate a game. The guy says he's fine. Let him play, as opposed to him not responding and you don't know if he's conscious or not. So I think it's a different situation. I think that guy, he made a decision to stay in the game.
All right, and I think the reason I bring it up is because there is, at ground level, some discussions about whether or not officials should have that responsibility to at least be on the safe side. Obviously, there's much more blame to go than the officials, and I don't think you should hold an official accountable if he misses one, but I think when it's obvious, they're talking about having officials say, hey, let's just stop it and let's get a trainer in here, and if you have to go to the sideline for one or two plays, so be it.
Well, if that ever happens where that's the case, then in that situation, the referee will be obligated to do that. But it's not really a rule now, and I think he was just doing a judgment call, just in a kind of like in the waning moments.
Now, did you hear what Hines Ward did yesterday?
He got knocked out.
He got knocked out. He had a concussion himself, but he must have been hit a couple times. The one time he reached, even though he got dinged and probably felt he was in trouble upstairs, he grabbed his ankle.
Wow.
And he had the presence of mind to grab his ankle so that he would be able to stay in the game.
That's
so that's what you're talking about. There are players that'll try to circumvent the safety issues.
Yeah, Hines' reputation is he's a tough guy, tough physical player. So some guys are able to do that and just constantly push their bodies over the limit. Some guys aren't as fortunate. I'm not saying he's right or wrong, but everybody has a limit. Their bodies have a limit, and you just hopefully your body can take it, because ultimately, if you can, you'll have a situation like that guy had.
All right, and what has now become the Monday Night Football, the network that now praises every player for being the greatest player that ever played. That's coming your way Monday night. Packers and Vikings at Lambeau Field. You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, all right. So here's Adrian Peterson coming back to Lambeau Field, and you got a pretty good dose of him at the Metrodome, 175 yards. Do you feel a little bit better about getting them in your place? Maybe their offensive line with your crowd noise, they don't get as big a push off the ball. Maybe the natural turf, a little easier to stop them?
Just going off my gut feeling, it's really Adrian Peterson, man.
Yeah.
So he's just that type of a back. I sat here the week leading up to the game. I was trying to tell you how good of a player he was.
Absolutely, you did. Yeah.
If you watch that film, some of the runs, he hit us outside and got 25 yards, but the real big runs were just like unbelievable plays by him. He just squeezed through a hole that really most backs can't fit through and just, you know, gallop his way to a 70-yard run. And just a lot of times you want to kind of try to constrict that until, I mean, shorter yardage, but sometimes a great player is just going to make plays.
Robert, who's the toughest running back you've ever played against?
Toughest. I don't know. AD is definitely the best back I've ever seen in my life, really, to tell you the truth. But I don't know the toughest. I'll top my head.
Toughest as far as responsibility or, like, you know, wearing you down.
Yeah. Well, all around.
I think, I pick Adrian.
Peterson's a
guy. It's one of those things where, you know, you might stop him for 2-3 yards, then he gets the ball again, he takes it 60. You know, it's just, and he gets out on the edge and he's punishing your DBs. You know, he's not the type of running back that's looking to run out of bounds. He's looking for contact, and you get this guy into your secondary. I mean, you really can't expect those guys to tackle him one-on-one.
All right, we'll see you Tuesday night after the Monday night game.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thanks for coming out. Robert Francois, ladies and gentlemen. For Mike Steele, our engineer, Justin Hull, Reggie Razoo back in our studios, and Phil Rothman, I'm Bill Scott. So long, everybody. This is In the Huddle on the Woodward Radio Network.